Hi everyone, this is Beck from John Pye Real Estate and thank you so much for watching. Today we're going to continue our series on landlord obligations, and again we have John Pye here to share some information with us. So if you didn't catch our last couple of videos, we have part 1 and part 2 of landlord obligations, which you can actually find either on our YouTube channel or you can actually find on our Facebook page. So John, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Beck. Last time we talked about some aspects of maintenance. I just want to talk again about some more on that topic. Now, while this may not be an absolute obligation for a landlord is responsible for the dwelling. And first of all, some landlords have different motives about holding the investment. And in some cases, they wish to knock the dwelling down in 5 years, for example. Now, obviously, a landlord in that situation will have a very different policy as far as maintenance of the dwelling is concerned, and the landlord may very well, and be entitled, to allow the dwelling to be literally run into the ground. But at the same time, the tenant is still has to have and enjoy a reasonable standard of comfort in the dwelling. Now, if the landlord has the motive of having the property as a long-term investment, I do believe, while it may not be an obligation totally, a landlord must take responsibility for the dwelling's maintenance. And personally, I have a great interest in maintenance of homes because I have a degree in building. I used to be a builder, and I believe a property should be maintained in the highest possible standard because it is a valuable asset. And I know that where landlords don't want to spend, there's additional cost in the end. And it can cost a lot of money to repair damage which could have been prevented during the course of a year or so. So here are just some of the things I've noticed when I've gone along to list properties. External paintwork. Some landlords think that's not necessary. So, and sure, as far as a tenant is concerned, some tenants probably don't care whether the landlord paints the outside or not. However, if it is unprotected timber, if there's any timber at all which is not painted, the timber will rot. Paint is the only way to prevent deterioration of timber. So paintwork, having it in good condition is vital unless you want to allow the timber to either rot or just to be weathered. But if a landlord exposes timber to the elements, it will be destroyed. It must be kept to a high standard of finish. Remember, paint is the only thing that preserves timber in the Australian climate. I've also noticed in some cases vines or even ivy growing up walls. Vegetation and buildings are absolute enemies. I've seen walls crack because of vines. I've seen vines going to roofs of houses. Again, you know, it's just very poor maintenance, and in the end, it could cost thousands of dollars to rectify. Just remember, have no vegetation up against the house. The other aspect of all this is protecting a home from white ants. We believe that in this environment in Sydney, every home should be checked once a year. All our landlords receive a message from us once a year inviting them to participate in an annual inspection. We get a very special rate from a pest inspector. Believe me, I've seen some shocking damage from white ants in properties that have been given to us. And we always advise our landlords to have their properties checked once a year. Landlords who don't worry about this can have extensive damage. I have seen I think the worst case scenario, I saw a property with the whole ceiling virtually ready to fall down and rafters badly eaten. And of course, white ants always go to the top and work their way down. They're not stupid. They don't want to destroy the structure around them and destroy their tunnels and so on. So they'll always start at the top and work down. So those white ant inspections are very important. Other things I've noticed would be particularly wood rot in balconies, and wood rot can make a balcony totally unsafe, and also internal leaks from pipes. We consider anything to do with water to be of utmost importance. And for instance, one landlord I know wouldn't get a leak repaired under his kitchen sink. It probably could have been done for $150 or so, and he just let it go. He wouldn't get it repaired, and that $150 repair job in the early days ended up costing him some reconstruction of the actual kitchen cabinet.
But also moisture can actually attract termites too.
That's right.
That actually is quite a vital thing to watch, and it's not something to ignore at all.
And of course, any leak from a bathroom will certainly attract termites. The other thing I just want to mention is, coming back to the residential tenancy agreement, please understand that as agents, we are always on the side of the landlord. We act for them, we receive their instructions. However, all instructions have to be in accordance with the Residential Tenancies Act 2010 and the Residential Tenancies Regulation 2010. And so any instruction has to be according to the expression of those acts in the residential tenancy. I've got a copy in my hand here, and while some things may be absolute responsibilities and obligations, other things such as some maintenance is really not so much an obligation as looking after the landlord's asset. So if I look at the tenancy agreement again, I just noticed the landlord has responsibilities as far as the rent is concerned. The landlord is responsible to pay rates and land tax and so forth. The landlord agrees as far as making the premises safe, as far as the quiet enjoyment of the premises. A landlord can't just front up at the property at any time of the day or night thinking they're entitled to just access the property. There are certain conditions of access. Also, the landlord is obliged to undertake urgent repairs. Now, urgent repairs can be undertaken by a tenant, subject to clause 19 of the agreement. But in our case, we always like to let landlords know, and we always go through those particular types of urgent repairs, such as water service, such as gas leaks, electrical faults, and so forth. We like to talk to our landlords first, but in fact, if something is really urgent, we'll just go ahead with an urgent repair, and if we can't get an answer from a landlord. There's also clauses relating to the sale of premises and the access to premises. A lot said about access to premises, clause 23. There's obligations as far as locks and security devices.
Which is actually what we spoke about in part 2. So part 2, we talked about safety, locks, and also safety devices, and which included the access to garages, and also on a strata property, also other common areas as well. And also we spoke about smoke alarms, and we spoke about also the asbestos registry.
So
loose fill.
There's obligations as far as swimming pools are concerned. Every swimming pool has to be registered. The other thing we have to keep in mind here is that the registration is for a fixed term. I think it's 3 years, and then another fee has to be paid for another 3 years. So
to the local council.
And we've got quite a number coming up for renewal in the first half of next year. So that's something to keep in mind. It's not, you can't just register a pool forever. There's a number of other items mentioned here, but it's probably best if anyone has a question that they address it to us, and we'd be able to answer that question for you. So over to you, Beck.
So let's just recap on that first part of the video. So additional things that aren't necessarily obligations as such, but are more responsibility of the landlord, particularly if he or she wants to keep their investment property in good condition. So external paint, very important to avoid wood rot, and maintaining the property with a really good paint. What else were we talking about? We were talking about water. If there is an issue with water, whether it be a drip, that can go from being a very small cost to blowing out to be a very expensive thing to fix. So that's also very important. What was the other two things?
If I could just mention one other thing here. Our tradespeople, the ones we use, they're tested. We fire the ones who we don't like, or don't do a proper tradesman-like job on anything. We sometimes have landlords who want to get their own tradespeople into a property, and because they're so cheap, and many times the really cheap ones are not worth having, and the repairs don't last, or they're not don't work in like manner. And the other thing is, as far as equipment is concerned, there are some very cheap brands available for stoves and dishwashers and so on. They might last 2 years, 3 years. And the cost of the cost of labour is so much here. A landlord, if a landlord's got a long-term plan in mind, don't go for cheap. Go for the middle of the road, or above the middle of the road.
That's really good advice. All right, so just going back over our list. So external paintwork, vegetation around homes. So get rid of any vines, wood rot and in handrails or balconies, and also internal drips, which we spoke about, and leaks from bathrooms. So we really hope that you found a lot of value out of our video today. And if you have any questions for us, you're very welcome to call our office. All of our details are on our Facebook page or even on our YouTube channel. If you need anything from us, we're here to help and add value to you and also your family for your investment property. So thank you so much for watching today, and we hope you found it very helpful.